Why avoidants can't escape the bond with a super empath. Have you ever wondered why some avoidants can walk away from almost everyone, yet somehow never fully escape the memory of one particular person? Imagine someone who fears closeness more than anything, but secretly carries one relationship in their heart for years after it ends. That relationship is often with a super empath, because this connection reaches places inside an avoidant that no ordinary relationship ever touches. Today, you'll discover the hidden psychology behind this powerful bond, why it feels impossible to erase, and what both people often misunderstand. By the end of this video, you'll understand why distance doesn't always mean detachment, especially when an avoidant meets a super empath. Let's begin with something that surprises almost everyone about avoidant attachment and emotional connection. Many people believe avoidants simply stop caring once they leave a relationship, but reality is usually much more complicated than that. Avoidants often suppress emotions instead of processing them, making unresolved connections remain buried beneath their calm and independent appearance. A super empath naturally creates emotional safety without trying to force vulnerability, which feels unfamiliar to someone afraid of emotional dependence. Unlike controlling partners, a super empath usually listens deeply, notices subtle emotions, and responds with genuine understanding rather than judgment. That level of acceptance quietly lowers an avoidant's emotional defenses, even when they never openly admit feeling safer around that person. For someone used to protecting themselves through emotional distance, this experience becomes deeply confusing and surprisingly unforgettable. Avoidants often expect relationships to involve pressure, criticism, or expectations that make them feel emotionally trapped and overwhelmed. When they meet a super empath, those familiar emotional patterns suddenly disappear, leaving them unsure how to respond. Instead of chasing, demanding, or controlling, the super empath often offers patience that feels both comforting and frightening at the same time. The avoidant begins experiencing emotional closeness without the usual conflict they prepared themselves to expect from relationships. Ironically, this healthy connection can trigger even stronger fear because it threatens the emotional walls they've spent years building. Deep inside, the avoidant starts wondering whether real intimacy might actually be possible. But that thought feels terrifying. Their nervous system often interprets genuine closeness as emotional danger, even when their heart quietly longs for connection. This inner conflict creates a powerful push and pull that confuses both partners throughout the relationship. The super empath usually notices emotional withdrawal and responds with even greater compassion instead of immediate anger. While this kindness comes from love, it unintentionally allows the avoidant to continue avoiding difficult emotional conversations. Eventually, the avoidant pulls away, believing distance will restore emotional balance and eliminate uncomfortable vulnerability. At first, leaving seems like relief, because physical distance temporarily reduces emotional pressure inside their overwhelmed mind. However, emotional memories rarely disappear as quickly as avoidants hope they will after walking away. The reason is surprisingly simple because authentic emotional safety is extremely difficult for avoidants to replace elsewhere. Even when avoidants appear happy with someone new, comparisons often happen quietly beneath conscious awareness. They may remember small conversations, comforting moments, or simple acts of understanding they never appreciated at the time. Those memories become stronger during lonely evenings when distractions disappear and emotional defenses begin weakening. Avoidants rarely share these thoughts because vulnerability still feels unsafe, even long after the relationship has ended. Many people mistake silence for emotional indifference, but silence often hides complicated feelings that remain unresolved. This doesn't mean every avoidant wants reconciliation or secretly plans to return to their former partner. Instead, it means emotional impact cannot always be measured by visible actions or spoken words. The super empath often struggles because they expect genuine love to naturally overcome emotional avoidance. Unfortunately, attachment patterns are much stronger than good intentions or sincere affection alone. An avoidant can truly care for someone while still feeling compelled to create emotional distance. This painful contradiction confuses both people because their behaviors rarely match their deeper emotions. The super empath usually interprets withdrawal as rejection, while the avoidant experiences it as emotional self-protection. Neither perspective fully captures the complex psychological reality unfolding beneath the surface of their relationship. The avoidant discovered what genuine acceptance felt like, perhaps for the very first time in life. The super empath discovered that unconditional love cannot heal someone unwilling to face their own fears. These lessons leave permanent emotional marks that continue shaping future relationships for both individuals. Avoidants often remember the super empath whenever another relationship lacks emotional depth or authentic understanding. They may never openly admit this comparison because doing so requires confronting uncomfortable emotions they usually avoid. Instead, they quietly carry those memories while continuing their familiar pattern of emotional independence. Sometimes they convince themselves the relationship wasn't special, even while repeatedly thinking about it years later. The human mind often minimizes painful experiences when facing them feels emotionally overwhelming. Still, buried emotions have a remarkable way of resurfacing during significant life changes or personal growth. As avoidants mature emotionally, they sometimes recognize what they lost only after enough time has passed. By then, regret may appear alongside gratitude, creating another complicated emotional experience they rarely express aloud. Meanwhile, the super empath may finally stop chasing and begin focusing on their own healing journey. Ironically, this emotional independence often changes the entire dynamic more than endless pursuit ever could. When the super empath releases the need to rescue, they reclaim their emotional energy and personal peace. That transformation often becomes unforgettable because the avoidant witnesses genuine strength replacing quiet self-sacrifice. For the first time, they realize the connection cannot simply remain available whenever they choose to return. This realization challenges the emotional certainty they once relied upon throughout the relationship. The truth is that powerful emotional connections rarely disappear simply because two people separate physically. They evolve into memories, lessons, regrets, motivations, and reminders of what genuine emotional intimacy once felt like. For avoidance, a super empath represents more than a former partner because they symbolize emotional possibility itself. Escaping that memory becomes difficult because it isn't only about another person anymore. It is also about the version of themselves they briefly experienced while feeling emotionally understood and accepted. That version quietly challenges every belief they once held about intimacy, vulnerability, and lasting connection. Perhaps that is why some avoidants never truly escape the bond with a super empath. Not because love guarantees reunion, but because authentic emotional experiences permanently reshape the human heart. If this video gave you a new perspective on avoidant attachment and emotional healing, share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, understanding someone's attachment style explains their behavior, but it never excuses repeated emotional harm. Healthy relationships require self-awareness, mutual effort, emotional accountability, and the courage to grow together over time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.